FA Cup final, and catching! What a magnificent goal!
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's live All Things Sky Blue review show. We're just going to talk about the recent games. Today's game against Birmingham, and we'll also be reviewing the Charlton game in midweek. I just wanted to get a few plugs out of the way. Our tonight's show is sponsored by Right Steel Fabrications for all your fabrication needs across Coventry and the West Midlands, but predominantly in the Coventry area. We are also partnered with the Anecdote and Dylan's Brewery, and also we are part of Sports Social Network. And last but not least, we are also sponsored by Sky and Friends Pet Services, dog walking and pet services, as I just said. Please like and subscribe, obviously, to our channel. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Cameron in. Cameron, good evening, sir. How are we doing?
Good evening, mate. I'm not too bad, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Before we go into sort of the Birmingham game, obviously we at All Things Sky Blue want to sort of pass our condolences on to Jamie Allen for obviously Frank Lampard confirmed it's to do with a family bereavement, so that's very sad news. And obviously we hope we send our love and support to him and his family. So just wanted to get say that first, which obviously just goes to show that there's more things that are more important than football. You know, football is one of those games you win and lose, but this is a far more important thing. So yeah, just wanted to get that mentioned. So let's talk about. So we'll talk about Birmingham game, and we'll sort of look at the Charlton game after, and then I think Cameron will talk about the sort of the loan watch as well, if you want to bring that up as well. So let's kick things off with today's game. Not the result we wanted, 3-2 defeat at St Andrews. Just give us your view on the game from your perspective, Cameron.
Just really disappointing, really. Just the defensive display. To Birmingham's credit, they were really efficient in front of goal. I think it's 3 shots on target, and all of them went in. So obviously credit to the finishing, because they were really good finishes. But at the same time, we were very open at times. Very too open, as it showed, and unfortunately resulted in those 3 goals. But to be honest, that's not really what hurts the most, because if you're a neutral, it was a great game to watch, honestly, because it was attacking football from both teams, and I think both teams looked sketchy defensively. It was just Birmingham were more efficient with their shots. But what hurt most was the Bobby Thomas red card. I've been Bobby Thomas's biggest supporter, I would say. I struggle to find someone bigger. If there is someone bigger, then great, because I think he's had a wonderful season. In my view, he's even been the best centre half in this league. But today he did let a lot of people down with that rash challenge, that rash action on Neumann, where he brushes his head with his hand, which causes the red card. And I believe he also said something quite unsavoury to the referee. So he could be in trouble for that potentially as well. So yeah, he's had a great season, but he's definitely let a lot of people down today, and hopefully he uses that time to reflect and bounce back like the great player he is. But today he definitely let a lot of people down, unfortunately.
Yeah, he did. I definitely agree with that. He was an idiot, to be perfectly honest. Kind of a little bit like a unnecessary lash out. I guess it's frustration. He's been wound up. The player Neumann has gone down like a sack of spuds to make sure that he gets the red card. But even so, that's not to take anything away from what Thomas did. It was a act of complete stupidity. Now we're out. Obviously we've had James De Silva come back from a 3-match ban, and now we're missing another defender to a 3-match ban for really a pathetic acts of stupidity. So very disappointed on that one. And I mean, as far as the game concerned, I just thought the difference when I was watching the game today, I thought that there's been quite a few games where we've had lapses of concentration defensively, but teams haven't quite punished us. If you cast your mind back to, say, even the Swansea game, our last win, if if they had that chance, I can't remember the name of the Swansea player. The names escape me. I think it's Cullen. If Cullen scores that volley, that would have been 1-1, and we probably don't walk away with a win. Charlton, we'll talk about a bit, but they had a chance against us. But today, it was just, I felt the difference was Birmingham were very clinical. They punished us for every mistake. It was just a really, really poor defensive performance. And now we've got, obviously, as we've touched on with Thomas' suspension, I think we've got to look at that area now in the next couple of weeks. Because I think defensively we look really light for options. We've got Wolfenden, we've got Kitchen, we've got Lati Baudier. What do you think Lampard will do with that position? And what's your sort of thoughts on the goals we conceded today as well?
Yeah, it's difficult, really, in a sense that yes, we've got Lati, we've got Wolfenden who do an okay job filling in, but three games, that's a lot to ask a squad player to do a job, I think. And given how integral I think Bobby Thomas is to the side, especially in terms of attacking set pieces, he's really dangerous on them. That's a big loss for 3 games, and 3 important games as well, because we're out of form, we need results. Losing your best defender due to a stupid action, it's not great. Will we bring someone in at centre half? I honestly don't know. I still think left back, centre mid, and the wide men are still bigger priorities. But it is definitely food for thought for Lampard. That is for sure.
Yeah. I mean, let's look at the goal. The first goal scored by, I think it's Mark Dux. I think it's Iwata with the cross. Milan's a little bit caught out of position, but more so Kitchen. Dux is completely unmarked in that far post, and he volleys it in. He's got the whole of goal to aim at. It's unchallenged. I mean, for me, I've got to question Liam Kitchen. He's ball watching. He's in no man's land. I look at Jada Silva, who's completely behind play. It's just, to me, it was just a really, really poor goal. It just was completely switched off. And Birmingham really, I know there are no mugs at home. The home record is far superior to the away record, but we're just giving them easy goals. It just really, really frustrated me immensely today.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe it was Kai Wagner who got the opening assist for Marvin Dutch's goal.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
As poor as the defending was, I will have no problem crediting the attacker for the goal, because it is, to strike it on the volley like that, it is a fantastic finish. And he moans, Rush was beaten near post. I think a lot of good goalkeepers would have been beaten by that. It was such a sweet finish, but absolutely a lot of players out of position. And if you look at Kai Wagner's record in the MLS in terms of assists, if you give him that much space to cross to a player, you're going to get punished, because he was probably the best crosser in the MLS by a distance, and he's already bringing back to the Championship. You can't get away with that, and that is definitely something to look at the training ground.
Yeah. Then we responded obviously to 1-1. Josh Eccles, I thought, was a fantastic strike, in fairness. And I think Eccles, for me, I think he's had a good season this year. I think he's looked pretty good, and a really, really, really good strike, wasn't it, from distance?
Yeah, fantastic finish. Yeah, it was a brilliant finish just from the distance. I kind of feel a bit for Beadle in the sense that I don't really think you can blame him much, because I think he was completely unsighted. So it went, obviously he struck it. He was completely unsighted, so he was always going to react late. And good for us that he did, because it was a really, really sweet finish. That's Eccles' 3rd goal of the season, I believe, considering that he missed a good chunk of the early stage through injury. He's come back in the squad, and whenever he's been called upon, he's been really good. Especially since when you constantly hear rumours, Lampard doesn't rate him, and there's transfer speculation that's like absolute nonsense, because I just don't see him going anywhere unless it's like massive fee. But whenever he's called upon, he's delivering. So Eccles' good form is continuing.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things he has added to his game is the amount of goals. Well, he's starting to weigh in some goals, which has been a massive help. And then obviously Birmingham then regained the lead not long after, which was again, I think it was Kumash who scored, who rounded Rushworth. I I think there's two issues. This one, I think you can see Milan's trying to play the offside trap, but it looks like he's the only one trying to play the offside trap. Kumas makes a good diagonal run. He beats the offside. No one picks him up. He rounds Rushworth. Rushworth could you have done a bit better? Could you have maybe used his feet? And Thomas obviously tried to clear off the line, but unfortunately just couldn't quite get there. Where do you point your finger on for that goal, for their second goal?
I think it's Milan more for just for the offside looking, instead of like, you can do that, put your hand up, but also make sure you're still tracking your man. And because that was very easy for Kumas, but it's a big gap between the two centre halves as well. That was poor tactical positioning, where that was just easy for Kumas to run into. As for Rushworth, I don't think there's much more he could have done. Kumas, he's a quick lad. Rushworth did what he could. I think he just ran out of height. And I think if he went with his legs, it's a risky one. If you get the ball, fantastic. But if you don't and you foul him, you're in big trouble.
Yeah.
So I don't really blame Rushworth much. I think it was just poor defensive positioning and Milan being more concerned with trying to catch player offside when he was just clearly never offside.
Yeah. But what I would say about the half was it was a half where I felt we had chances. I think Kitchen had a good chance from a corner when he headed it just before that straight to the keeper as well. And I think that was a difference, that we just couldn't quite take those chances. And I think from memory, I think Ellis Sims had a chance as well. And it was just one of those halves where they took their chances and we didn't. And that's I guess, was the key difference, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Because I think before Birmingham's second, because obviously it didn't take them long to go back in the lead, but we didn't just let off after the first goal. We were continuing to apply pressure. We were firmly on top, in control. In fact, I'd even say we were in control of the game for those few minutes, and we had chances to take the lead, didn't take them, unfortunately, and then obviously just that poor piece of defensive play, and they punished it. So to Birmingham's credit, again, they were very efficient in front of goal today.
Yeah, they definitely were. So half time 2-1. I thought going into the second half, I thought I'm disappointed, but I felt we were well in this game. I thought we did look good going forward. Birmingham were happy just to sit back and only really sort of try and hit us on the counter. It's almost like they were playing it as more like the away side. Going into the second half, obviously, we then get that equaliser for Ellis Sims, who's continuing, his good form. Really good strike into the corner. How disappointing were you when, as soon as we get that second goal, it's almost like within a couple of minutes, Birmingham then regained the lead again. It's just bitterly frustrating, wasn't it? Yeah,
very, very, very frustrating. Sims takes his goal really well. If anything, it's a fantastic finish outside the box. A really good header for Mason Clark. Jack Redoni, just although he's not been at his best since he's come back, he's still shown it in glimpses, and that was a nice little glimpse there, which set up Ellis Sims for the goal. And then obviously Birmingham immediately trying to respond. And it can happen because he's trying to get that response. But for Marvin Dukes, it was just the big gap between the centre halves, and it's just so easy.
Yeah,
I think Rushworth will be disappointed with that one because he was beaten at the near post, which is unlike Rushworth. But I suppose if you're pulling out like monstrous saves, you're gonna. I guess for laws of averages, it'll even out, and you'll concede a goal that you really should be stopping. But it's again a good finish by Marvin Dukes, and to his credit, he had a fantastic game. But very disappointing. But even then, I thought there was still a chance to get something.
Absolutely. I think Rushworth, was he slightly wrong-footed for that goal? Because it's almost like he was going one way, but the ball went the other. I don't know, it just swerved a little bit. I couldn't really tell from standing at the other end of the ground. Did it move in the air?
I don't think it was too much movement. I just think his position was all wrong. I think if he stayed rooted to his line, he potentially saves it. But I think because he's so far out, if Dukes gets enough pace on the shot, which he did, he was just going to be beaten because the positioning was just incorrect.
Yeah. As I say, I thought we could get him back into the game at 3-2, but there was one incident I think later on in the game, which obviously Lampard is quite critical. The officials was the Mason Clark non-penalty decision. I think from my view, it looked like both players were kind of grappling, but then you could see that their player was really pulling Ethel Mason-Clark's shirt. I think the big thing with this one was I think the referee's view was blinded. I don't think he sees that. And maybe you could say, why not the assistant referee see it? He's a long way from it, but maybe he could have got involved as well. What was your take on that incident?
I think it should have been a penalty, but I think what is maybe his undoing is, if you look at the replay, Mason Clark is also tugging at the shirt. Yeah. So maybe this is a scenario where Mason Clark has to be a bit smarter, where do not tug at the shirt. If you do not also tug at his shirt, and if you're not tugging at his shirt, maybe you get it. So I think that's maybe what leads to the penalty not being given, because both of them are at it. Obviously, Arata a lot more, but that being said, I think it still should have been a penalty, because it was quite obvious that Iwata was the aggressor in that particular challenge.
Yeah, I think it's one of those ones where they were both grappling. So I just don't think the referee sees it, and that's why I don't think he's given it. But yeah, I think my overall emotion is it's a really disappointing result. I think the performance was better than Charlton, in fairness. I thought we played worse at Charlton. You could argue, though, that we had quite a few of our sort of senior players back. We probably had, with the exception of Torp and BTA, the strongest side that we could have put out today, but it just wasn't enough. How concerned are you with recent results? Obviously, the overall picture is we're still top of the league. The gap has narrowed a bit, obviously, with Middlesbrough winning today. Do you think it's just a case of, have a couple of weeks rest and then just go again? Do you think we'll be ready?
I definitely think the FA Cup next week is a very welcome break. I think it is something we need. Just rotate the squad, rest some players, hopefully bring in a player or two before that game. Regardless of how that FA Cup game goes, it's a nice break, because the form's been a bit patchy. Am I concerned? A little bit, because if your form's patchy, you're always going to worry a bit, because if you're in a bit of bad form, you do start to wonder, when is that next win going to come? But long term, I still think we'll be okay. It's just we haven't had that bad run of form yet, which we're now experiencing. But I understand Maruri's good, and I think it all stems from it does stem from a lack of depth. And I know every team plays 46 games, but when you don't have that squad depth, you're going to feel it more than other sides. So it's definitely something we do need to address in January, because if you just look at that bench today, you've got Perry on the bench, Kai Andrews on the bench, you've got Shepherd on the bench. Impressive youngsters, very impressive youngsters. But asking them to come on and change a game, it's a big ask for them. And at this moment in time, are they ready for it? I think Kai Andrews, every time he's come on, he's done okay. In fact, I think he's even looked good at times. But it still says something where Lampard doesn't really bring him on regularly. And he was kind of forced into doing it today because of the notable absentees in the midfield.
Yeah. I think his hands tied. You say, I think you make a good point about the bench, because the only real player who could affect the game would be Haji Wright. He took off Sakamoto in the second half. I think this is where Lampard is trying to sort of, trying to manage his schedule, I guess, because I think he did sort of mention about the fatigue factor. And I think it was a bit annoying that he went off, but I understand it, because I guess, we'll try and keep him fresh, I guess. But I don't know. I'm just thinking about that Sakamoto one. I thought, could you have taken off midfield and just gone for the jugular? Tried to go up front, maybe. I don't know.
For what it's worth, he did look in a bit of discomfort, and when he came off, he did have an ice pack on his ankles.
Right,
so maybe he took a bit of a bang. He's probably okay, but it was just maybe a precaution, because he did have some ice on that ankle.
Okay, I didn't see that, because I was at the game, so I didn't see that bit. So that's fair enough. Cool. All right, that makes sense now. All right, I was going to get a few comments from our audience. We've actually got one comment from Lee Beckett. Evening, Lee. Milan taking long throws on the left-hand side is catching us out too. Do you think that's a problem, because the fact that then it puts him out of position on throw-ins? Do you think that's something that possibly Lampard could look at as a simple change, maybe?
Yes, it can be. It can be an issue, especially if a long throw doesn't come off. You can if you get the ball away quick enough. If there's someone on the left, you can quickly switch it, and you don't have your right back there. You're kind of asking your right winger and your centre back to cover for one guy. And it's very what we call uncomfortable waters, and it's not really a position you want to be in. So maybe it's a case of is anybody else good with a long throw on the left side? Maybe you can. So if you've got a midfielder that's good with a long throw, or a left-sided defender who's good with a long throw, maybe they take those long throws instead of Milan on that particular side.
Well, the only other person I can think of is Bobby Thomas, but obviously, as we know, he's suspended now, so that's not going to happen. So I think that's a slight problem. Is there any sort of particular players that you're most concerned with form-wise, or do you think it's just more of a collective thing?
I think there's been individuals who've been off the ball, like Jack Bredoni's really not been back to his best. Is he potentially fully fit? I don't think so, but at the same time, the lack of depth means that we're forcing him to play more. He's not really getting the appropriate rest time. But then again, that can be seen as an excuse because he set such a high bar. So when he's not on that high bar, there's obviously going to be concern. Obviously, Haji Wright has not scored in several months, which is obviously a concern because when he's on it, he can be absolutely unplayable. But I also think it's just a bit of a collective. I do think it's just our turn to have a bad run of form, and just maybe we need those reinforcements in January just to build that depth up in the squad, and then that way players can now recover sufficiently, and then that way hopefully we can go back on a run very soon.
Yeah, I think, as I say, I think this is coming up to a really critical part of the season for us now because the gap's closing. So I think come the Leicester game in just under 2 weeks now, we don't really have any excuses going into that game. We've got the rest now. We'll have the rest. We've got time to hopefully bring some new bodies in. And really we need players that are going to even play in the first team right now. We don't need backup players. We need players that are ready to come to the team. I've talked about a couple of players like Dan Neil, who could potentially come from Sunderland. You've got, there's been a lot of rumours, Romain Esse from Crystal Palace. I've even heard the name Raksaki from Crystal Palace be mentioned as well. Just looking at potential signings, Cameron, what sort of players do you think could Lampard be looking out for in the next, forthcoming weeks?
I see you mentioned Jezra and Raksaki there, and obviously he's spent the first half of his season out on loan in Turkey with Rizerspoor. He's done very well there. Potentially, I know that Swansea are also looking at him apparently. Obviously, Romain Esse, who just needs that drop down to the Championship, just get that extra experience because although he did well in the Championship, he's not quite at the races in terms of a Palace 11. Drop down for a bit, get that experience, help us get over the line, hopefully. Daniel, as you say, he's got that know-how with Sunderland. He has that know-how. In terms of certain individuals, I don't really know who to say at the minute because it's just
guesswork.
Yeah, because I think it's just guesswork because are most of these players going to be loaned to buys? Because I can't see many permanent players coming in. Because I think it's quite hard to do that in January, especially I think in January they're also at a premium unless they're really out of favour. So it's hard to say. So at the moment, I think you're only really going off rumoured players. Another one is Leo Labada, who is currently in the MLS with Charlotte FC. He was at Celtic years ago, done very well there. He left the club, went to Charlotte. He's not really enjoyed life in the MLS, but despite the lack of Championship experience, he could be a good pickup for a Championship side because one thing he does have is end products. He does get a fair few goals on the wing. Maybe he needs to work more off the ball, but then again, he's been in the MLS. I don't know if he's improved on that or not since he's been away from the UK, but there's definitely a few good names being touted around.
And where does he play for Charlotte?
He's a right winger.
Right winger.
He's a right winger.
So, because Romain Esse plays a similar position, doesn't he? Well, when he was at sort of Millwall, he kind of played. Mm-hmm. And I think we do need a couple of wingers because I think we do rely heavily on Mason Clark and Sakamoto. If they get injured, obviously we have to kind of put makeshift players in that position. And I think obviously BTA has been a massive loss as well. Do you think he's possibly our most important player at the club, BTA, just from the fact that he hasn't been playing, and you could argue results haven't been quite as good since he's been injured?
Yeah, I would argue so. And even if he wasn't scoring a lot of goals, I would say he was, just because of his versatility. He can cover on the right wing. He can play. He can play as a number 9. He can play as like a supporting striker as a number 10. He can play on the left. He can play in so many different roles and perform well equally in these different roles. And it's just for general energy he brings. He's not afraid to get physical. He's quite good technically and keep the ball with him. He's improved massively on his finishing, which is what had let him down over the years. So yes, it's definitely been a massive miss. So if not for his goals, definitely the energy and the dynamicism he does bring to the side.
And what about Victor Torp? Do you think he was a big miss today?
Yeah, I think so. Because I just think that there are parts in that game where, yeah, it was a high-scoring encounter, but every time Birmingham were going to go ahead, they were going to understandably make sure they were solid, hard to break down. So maybe someone who has a very good long shot on them in Victor Torp definitely been a miss. And not only that, for set pieces, because it was Grimes taking every single set piece. We couldn't really vary it around because Lampard doesn't want Rudoni taking corners anymore, because I think mainly because of his height. So we had an outswinging corner on one side, in-swinging corner on one side, and we didn't really switch it up, which we might have been able to do if Victor Torp was on the park.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think he's been a big loss. But fingers crossed he's back for the Leicester game, unless Lampard wants to play him for the Stoke game. We'll see. Did you want to go through your loan watch on the sort of current players out on loan from other clubs?
Yeah, I will do that now. So to begin with, Raphael played before 90 for Wigan as they fell to defeat against league leaders Cardiff City away from home. Brad Collins played before 90 for Burton Albion as they unfortunately lost to Plymouth 3-0. They are more and more in danger of going down, but hopefully they can find some form soon. Justin Ibikru came off the bench in the 65th minute for Lincoln as they beat Peterborough 5-2. They remain second in League One. Isaac Moore came off the bench in the 76th minute for Forest Green as they come from behind to beat Halifax Town in the National League. Aidan Dalsh was left out of the matchday squad, so maybe we look at recalling him and sending him somewhere else, because an impressive talent that Forest Green had not long brought in another attacker from the Welsh Premier League. He come on and he scored twice. So potentially Dalsh might get phased out. So maybe there's a case where we send the young lad elsewhere. Greg Sanford played before 90 for Bedford Town as they lost 2-0 to AFC Fylde in the National League North. Harvey Broad played 69 minutes for Dagenham and Redbridge as they lost 1-0 to Hemel Hempstead in the National League South. And finally, Norman Bissett was absent inside from the matchday squad as Rems beat Annecy 2-1 to go up to second league. Norman Bissett is someone who obviously we were hoping that was a loan that we'd hope would have worked out, because there was an option to buy at the end of the season had it worked out. Obviously, I think we paid around 1.9 million for him. It's not worked out despite his raw talent. Just reports of lack of discipline. If you look at Stade de Reims fans on him, they're just not very positive, and it's just really disappointing because the raw ability is absolutely there. Of course it is, because he made his senior debut for Belgium last season, but the application is just not there, and it's just so disappointing.
What do you put it down to? Is it attitude, do you think, or arrogance? I don't know. I mean, I don't know the man. I mean, what would you guess it as?
It's hard to say when you don't know the man, but there's definitely it's because obviously when we've seen him, there's obviously this swagger that he has. He definitely does believe in himself, which is always good. But sometimes confidence can also become arrogant. So maybe it's just a young man who thinks he's better than he is, and maybe just needs that humbling experience. Because for talent, it's absolutely there. But I think what he needs a disciplinarian manager who is good at dealing with players who struggle with attitude. So maybe there's a manager in France or Belgium who is in the Neil Warnock mold, who is good at dealing with those players. And maybe that's the type of coach that he needs, because it just seems that the environment at Stade de Reims maybe he's just not equipped to deal with him.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, thanks very much for that, Cameron. Okay, so we're going to sort of change the review to the Charlton game and look back on that one, the 1-1 draw. For this game, Lampard made quite a few changes. I think it was 6 changes, and he sort of opted to play 3 at the back, 5 in midfield, and went with Haji Wright, Ellis Sims up front. Sort of brief synopsis: Ellis Sims scores a really well taken goal, a good cross from Milan Van Ivak, and Sims just guides it perfectly into the corner. And obviously, Charlton equalise through Rankin Costello after a Brown mistake from a header, which we don't deal with. What was your thoughts, A, Cameron, on the team lineup, and B, the game in general?
The lineup surprised me a bit because I didn't think we'd go like a back three. So maybe it's just a case like you say, because it's we're having to keep rotating. At the start of the game, really bright, honestly. Ellis Sims, a fantastic finish. From a Milan cross, really fast start. And then the game, it gets a bit weird, it gets a bit cagey. And to Charlton's credit, there is a reason why they are very hard to beat at the Valley. They make it hard for us, but at the same time, it was one of them where we weren't performing great, and Charlton was certainly the better team, but I thought we were still kind of control. We were defending pretty well. But then Brow comes on because Kesler Hayden is injured. He has to come off. And Brow's looking okay, but then he has this header. He just completely mistimes his header, mistimes the touch. I mean, he has the ball taken off him. And Rushworth, there's not a lot you can do. He saves it, but then Rankin Costello scores a rebound. I don't put any blame on Rushworth at all because I think, well, what are you really supposed to do in that situation? You're kind of on your own.
Yeah.
I don't really want to go too hard on Brow because as much as it is a really, really poor mistake, he's not played a lot of football. Obviously, it's no excuse to make a mistake at that level. You should be doing better than that. But I just sympathise because when you don't play regularly, which he hasn't done, it's very hard to get those opportunities to rectify that mistake unless it's like maybe a cup game or you really need to rotate the squad. So yeah, it's not an easy position for him to be in, especially when he's not really played a lot of minutes.
I mean, he had Bidwell sitting on the bench. Why not bring on Bidwell? Why Brown instead of Bidwell? I guess is the question I would ask.
I do wonder that too, because obviously for much of the season he's obviously Lampard has preferred to start Bidwell over Brow, but obviously in recent weeks that's completely been flipped on its head. He's been choosing Brow over Bidwell, or if he didn't want to start Brow during De Silva suspension, Kesler Hayden was being used at left back, which to be fair he did a decent job there. So I'm not in the know, but it does make you question Jake Bidwell's future. Is he being phased out, or is it just a case that Brow's improved enough so Lampard trusts him? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, my view on the game was, I thought, as I say, we started really well. I thought Ellis Sims, I think he's probably in the last, in the Christmas period, he's been probably one of our best players, actually. I think he's been brilliant. I think in general, he's had a much improved season from last year. Scores a really good goal. I just felt like we were just too defensive. But we just sat back and we almost like encouraged Charlton to attack us, and we just didn't seem to. I don't know. This just seemed a bit slow. I thought we're pretty passive now. Back build up, and we just didn't seem that. We didn't have that sort of hunger, that that desire to get the second goal and really try and take the game to them. Am I being a bit too harsh? Do you think that's to Charlton's credit or not?
I think it was a combination of both. Like we haven't been our usual positive selves for a while, and we certainly weren't today. But at the same time, I'm going to give Charlton credit because Nathan Jones maybe he's thinking, okay, they're letting us attack, maybe to see if we can then do them on the counter. But Nathan Jones, there's a reason why a lot of his teams are very well organised. Even though they've been leaking more goals recently, they're still an organised unit, and you still have to earn your goals against them. And I think that showed because maybe we're waiting to pick off mistakes and we do on the counter, but Charlton, they're just so organised that you're not going to get many of those opportunities. So I think the setup was wrong. I think we had to go. I think we still had to try and go at them. So I think tactically we potentially did get it wrong, and Nathan Jones got a spot on. But to Charlton's credit, there is a reason why that every point they've got they have truly earned. Obviously, it's disappointing. You look at the table and think, okay, we should be going there and winning, but there is a reason why they are hard to beat at home. And we, for our own mistakes, we gifted them that point. But at the same time, I'd argue they earned it because they also did very well defensively. It was a very good defensive display from them.
I mean, my thought on the second half was I felt they were. I thought that goal was coming before that anyway. If I have to be honest, they were the better side that second half, and I just felt you've got Mason Clark, Sakamoto on the bench. I appreciate that. I guess Lampard felt that Sakamoto was tired. I know he brought Rodoni on. I think it was for Eccles from memory. Could you maybe took a defender and a midfielder off and got the two wingers on off the bench to try and sort of kind of counteract that, maybe change it tactically, or do you think he did the right thing in just keeping it the same team? Could Lampard done something different there?
I actually personally would have brought off a centre half and then brought on the two wingers, because I think it was becoming quite obvious that the formation itself, I think it was just too negative. Charlton were just enjoying a lot of flow of possession. I think bringing on two of the wingers, especially Mason Clark, who's been in fine form, give them food for thought. Okay, we've enjoyed a bit of attack, now we've got to do a bit of defending. I think that was what was missing there. I'm not sure why Sakamoto didn't play whatsoever. But yeah, it's something I failed to understand. I personally think that game, even before kickoff, was calling for wingers to go at their fullbacks. So yeah, in my opinion, I think it was definitely a missed trick not putting on both the wingers to try and go at their fullbacks and just stem a flow of their attacks and put the pressure back on them.
Because he played, I guess he was asking quite a lot of Milan, and Kessler Hayden really is playing as more the wing back role. So he felt that he wanted to, because they play three at the back, I guess he wanted two up front maybe. But I don't know. I just thought I thought he could have just changed it in that second half, because I just felt like every time we had the ball, we kind of cleared it. It went straight to the red shirt. It's a bit like Southampton a little bit, where no one's holding the ball up. I think that's where I'm a bit critical of Haji Wright, and kind of go on to him if you want. But one of the things that frustrates me about Wright in particular is his back to goal play for a centre forward is abysmal. You know, he gets bullied off the ball too easily, and then we're on the back foot. You could, I suppose. I mean, some of the sort of messages I see on social media about was maybe do you play Haji Wright more as a winger on the left hand side? But that, to me, I don't think we've bought him for that. I think we've bought him because he's a centre forward. We want to score goals, but I think he has to improve his work with his back to goal in particular. I think it's really poor in my opinion. What's your take on it?
It's definitely a weakness of his, and I think Haji Wright's strength definitely comes from getting the ball in slightly deeper positions and running at people.
Yeah,
I think that's why he's maybe arguably a striker winger hybrid. Obviously a number 9, but just a little bit of a winger hybrid, just because he likes to take people on instead of like holding the ball back. So maybe the best you get out of him is he collects the ball in deep positions. He then runs it, like he just drifts left a little bit, picks the ball up, and then he can either drift centrally with the ball, or he can drift left with maybe Mason Clark overlapping centrally for a cross. So I think that's how you get more out of Haji Wright. But I think the problem is, I think the way we set up, we do need that physical. We do need that physical presence in the number 9 role. But at the same time, the current number 10 is not really performing, and I don't think that helps Haji Wright very much either. I think the number 10 role, it is so important. It's so important. They dictate the attacks. They control what's going on. Obviously, when Rodoni's on form and he's just like controlling the attack, we were so dangerous. When our head did it in those quick squirts, we could do it. And the same with Thomas Asante. It's the same with Thomas Asante. He can run the show over there, and it's not surprising that Haji Wright struggled form-wise, but at the same time, it doesn't help when there's also not a lot of service. You can't really score if you're not really getting a lot of service in good positions.
I think he had 2 shots and he had you right. He had the shot, the left foot curling shot in the first half, which wasn't a bad attempt, but it was quite a fair way out, which went wide. And then I think he hit the side netting, I think, from memory in the second half. And not forgetting Jamie Allen had a good chance as well, didn't he? With you know, do you think he was a bit unlucky that chance, that miss? I don't know. Do you think that's just a good save?
I've actually noticed it with a couple of games and had you right, obviously today and a couple of games before that. Sometimes he's eager to get a shot off early, and sometimes he doesn't get the correct connection and it ends up being an easy stop for the goalkeeper. Or sometimes when he's running with the ball, which he's generally good at, sometimes he's just running onto it for too long, and then when he eventually gets a shot away, there's too many defenders, and then the shot is blocked. So that just suggests a lack of confidence, because the Hadji right in confidence, his timing is usually exquisite, and when he takes that time, usually it goes in. So maybe that's also just a confidence thing.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to get some comments from the audience. Lee mentions that says that Brow's a young lad with less than 75 games under his belt. He was just unlucky. He also says that you could see that the Charlton pressure was building, and we didn't do anything to stem the flow of the pressure, which I agree. I think we didn't. I thought Lampard was a little bit slow in really changing anything really at all. You know, so I was a bit disappointed with that. Glenn, good evening, Glenn, has felt that Charlton weren't any mugs and they've got a decent home record. I think Gurnery makes a point about. I think this is what you said earlier, Cameron, about he's not getting the service from the 10, i.e. Jack Redoni. Is it lost? Do you think? What do you think the deal is with Redoni? Is it just lack of confidence? Is it injury? What do you put it down to him? Because obviously he's just not been performing to the level that he did last year. What do you put it down to?
I think it can be multiple factors, because I can't remember what injury it was. Was it shoulder? Was it groin?
I think it was a shoulder. I want to say it was the Oxford game last year. He picked up an injury with a shoulder injury.
He had a shoulder injury, but obviously it didn't really affect his form. But then obviously he had that injury. I think it was at Leicester, and then obviously he's not really been on the same touch of form. So maybe it's just maybe it's a mental block, in the sense that because usually when you have a bad injury, sometimes it can be a mental block, or am I going to get hurt again? And that can either, one, make you re-injure yourself, or two, your form for a while is just going to struggle. And I think on the point, with Lee makes with Brow, I think Brow's around 23, 24. However, he was quite a late bloomer, because he didn't really break into the regular Granada side until last season, which he did very well. He took the place of a long-time captain of Carlos Neva. So he has bloomed quite late. So although he's around a similar age to much of the squad, he has had less experience because he was quite a late bloomer. So maybe that does play a part.
Yeah. Let's get some more comments. I think Glenn makes a comment here about Tyreek George, who's a player we've been linked with as well from Chelsea. He said that he wasn't in the Chelsea squad today. I think they were playing at Man City. Tyreek George, do you know much about him? I mean, I've heard good reports on him, but do you think he's a potential player that could improve the situation this season?
Absolutely. I've actually noticed for a couple of games he's not really been in the matchday squads, but he's quite a regular fixture, especially in the cups and in Europe. He's done quite well. He played quite a big role in their Conference League success last season. He's already in the England under-21 side. I could see that potentially being plausible if we were to pursue it. Obviously, in the summer he was supposed to go to Fulham, but then Chelsea picked up injuries in key attacking positions, so they had to recall Mark Gayu from Sunderland, and then the Tyreek George transfer fell through. So maybe there is a potential window to bring him on loan with that obligation to buy should we be promoted, with like a fee of over 20 million, which would become affordable with that Premier League money. So yeah, potentially I could see that being in the pipeline. Yeah. But then again, I think we will not be the only ones who are going to be interested in him, and I wouldn't be surprised, because he is a top player when waiting.
I guess one hope we've got is Frank Lampard being an ex-Chelsea player and obviously a legend of Chelsea as well. Maybe hopefully that might pull him to come to us. Fingers crossed. We'll see what happens in that one. I mean, let's look at really. I've got one more comment from Glenn. Sorry, before I move on to the next bit. He's asking about his thoughts on Albeida from the MLS on loan, ex-Celtic. Would you take SA and Rakisaki on loan, or both, or either or? What's your view on that one?
I think if you were going, I think if I had to pick one of those three players, I think Rakisaki is the safest bet. He had that full season on loan at Sheffield United. He's had that stint in Turkey. And I think that would have made him a more complete player. So if you were to give me an option to pick one of them, I think it's a fairly easy decision. Lil Abada is a good player. SA, a very good young talent. But if you're asking me, would you take Rakisaki on loan from Palace the rest of the season, potentially maybe even buy him? Yeah, I would. I'd bite your hand off that opportunity. Absolutely. I think he's a really, really good player who I think with another run in the Championship would be even more dangerous than he was last year.
I thought he was really good when he played for Sheffield United. I think it was last season. I think we drew 2-2. I think he played. And I thought he was class. He was very quick as well. He's got pace. But I think look, we kind of covered the offensive positions. Do you feel we need a striker and also maybe a defender now? Now we've got no Bobby Thomas for 3 games. Do you think that's a position that we need to address in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, potentially. In terms of defenders, I'm honestly not sure what we do in terms of centre halves. Left back, maybe someone comes in if Bidwell goes out. I could potentially see a situation where that develops. Midfielders, yes, I really do think we need a midfielder. Just ideally an athletic midfielder who can just cover a lot of ground. Whether that's somebody who we pluck from another Championship side or someone from Europe or someone on loan from the Premier League, I don't know. I'm just going to put Jason Knight out there if we could maybe pull some strings there. Ambitious maybe because I don't think Bristol City would be willing to let him go for cheap. But promotion's not cheap, so sometimes you have to take those risks.
Yeah, I guess what makes it harder is Bristol City are doing pretty well as well, aren't they? I think they're in the playoffs. I think although they lost against Preston today. I thought he played quite well for them when we played them earlier in the season. Question from Glenn about Ben Sheaf. Are we missing Ben Sheaf, Cameron?
No.
I mean, my personal view is Ben Sheaf needed minutes, and he wasn't going to get those minutes with us. He wanted to save minutes. I thought £6.5 million for him was really good business for the football club, and I still haven't changed my mind on that. Yes, he's a good footballer, but his injury record was really poor. And yeah, I think the player didn't want to stay at the football club and he wanted to move. So that's just my view. I don't think he's going to drop Grimes because I think Grimes has been okay. He may not be at his best in recent games, but overall he's been outstanding.
I think having Grimes and Sheaf in the midfield, while both good players individually, with Grimes being the better player, I think it hurt us because you can play a double pivot, but sometimes one of a double pivot has to go forward, and that was often being Ben Sheaf. I don't think Ben Sheaf had the athleticism to do that, and sometimes that really hurt us, especially with Ben Sheaf's injury record. It obviously slowed him down even more, and I think it was starting to hurt us. So while both good players, they just did not mix whatsoever. So I don't think we're missing him. Maybe the mistake was not bringing in a midfield to replace Sheaf when we had the chance in the summer. So hopefully we use this January window to maybe put that right.
Yeah, I think the thing that concerns me overall with the transfer situation is, as we've kind of touched on earlier, the bench is a big problem. Okay, if you get Torp, BTA back, things look a bit better, but the depth is a massive concern. In all fairness, the strength and depth has always been like that. We've never had a big squad for quite a number of years. It's nothing unusual. Doug King might say, well, I need to run the club as sustainably as possible, which is what he may say. But I think if there's any season where we need to start gambling, it'll be this one. Bearing in mind where we are in the league, I think we're still, right now 6 points clear of I think it's 6 points. I could be wrong. Someone correct me if that's not right. But we're still clear at the top.
Yeah, 6 points.
We've got to. I think we've got to gamble now. We have got money because we tried to sign Charlie Hughes for a sizable amount of money, which Hull refused. So I think we've just got to go for it, haven't we? He's got to take the risk, in my opinion. If there's any season to do it, it's now, isn't it? Because my fear is if we don't go up this season, I feel that things could implode. I don't know. I don't want to be a bit over the top, but I look at players like Milan, even the manager. I just think there's going to be a lot of uncertainty if we don't go up this season. Is that a concern of yours?
I don't think we'd completely implode. I don't think it'd be a case where we miss an opportunity and then next season we're suddenly in a relegation battle. Obviously, it could happen. It's the Championship. Strange things have happened. But I think as a club we are run quite well. So I think we'd use that money to maybe bring in other players, but it'd certainly be a transition period because we wouldn't have that continuity at the start of the season, which we've had this year, which obviously led to our good start in my view. So maybe it would have been a case where we maybe start next season a bit slower because there's a lot of new players to bed in, and then maybe you go on a bit of a charge later on. So it's definitely a worry because in the position we're in, you're thinking, okay, we should be trying to get over the line, but football doesn't always work like that. So we've still got to try and take it a day at a time, a game at a time, and just see what keeps happening.
I think the thing I'll say though about this season, I think it's a very poor Championship league in general. I mean, you look at last season, the top three sides were all over 90 points, and I think everyone's come in agreement that I think around 85 might be enough to go up this season. Which, when you look at it, is what 11 wins, isn't it? So you look at 11 wins from, is it 21 to go now? I think we've played 25 after today. So it's still well in our hands. I think that's the positives. It is completely in our hands. And I guess the perfect game to sort of come back to in the next league game is Leicester, which is obviously a massive local derby. It's our biggest local rivals in the division. Do you think this is the perfect opportunity to bounce back, Leicester City?
Oh yeah, absolutely. In terms of the Championship, while I don't think it's been amazing, I will argue in favour of the fact that I think the standard was actually even poorer last year, because I think the playoffs took less than 70 points to get over the line, and the fact that two teams got 100 points, well, a great achievement, and I kind of felt bad for Sheffield United that year because they got 92 points, 90 if you factor in the points deduction. Most seasons, that's an automatic promotion campaign. So it was just kind of a case where there was three amazing teams. There was like a fourth very good team in Sunderland, and there was just a bunch of good teams who just weren't consistent. Where I think this year, the most parachute teams, mainly Southampton and Leicester, have struggled, which I think has been good for the Championship because I think the parachute sides do have an unfair financial advantage.
Yeah.
And to the Championship club's credit, I think a lot of teams have raised their game. It might not feel like it because no one's been consistent, but a lot of Championship sides have thrown money at it this season. I think Norwich signed somebody for almost about £11 million if you include add-ons. So there's been Championship sides without parachute money who have been spending the big money. So it's definitely, I think it's been a combination. Yeah, nobody's really been consistent apart from Cobb until our recent run. But at the same time, I do think the league is just generally more competitive. I can't really think of many bad Championship teams, and that's including the sides in the relegation zone, because on their day, they're very good sides as well.
Yeah. I think the only good thing from our point of view is everyone's beating each other, aren't they, really? Because you could say, Middlesbrough, I think, have gone up to second, but they've lost 6 games. And I think they're a side that they will lose a few more games this season. I think the one team I think will probably go on to win the league will be Ipswich. I think for me, they were the best side I've seen at the CBS from the game that I saw. Do you think Ipswich are the team to beat this season?
I'm going to stick my neck out, and I'm still going to say I think Coventry are the team to beat. I still think we've got that comfortable gap. Obviously, I think our biggest threats to the title are going to be Ipswich, because they're going to have plenty of brass to spend in January. They can wheel and deal if they don't want anyone. They can bring them extra quality. Hopefully, we can do the same. I'm still going to back us for the title, which I know with current form might be crazy to say, but I do have that belief that we can. A long way to go, but if you were to ask me right now, I do think Coventry and Ipswich will be the top two.
I think also you're only one win away from getting yourself back into form. I think that's the only thing you would say. And you're right. I think every team has a bad spell, so to speak. You know, some teams have purple patches, but I know we've had 2 wins from the last 8. We picked up your draw or 2. But as I say, I think this little break has come at the perfect time, and I think really for me, we've got no excuses now going into Leicester game. You know, we can't moan about fatigue or anything like that. We've just got to go for it now. And you know, the biggest frustrations we spoke earlier about is Bobby Thomas, and that's the thing that's really frustrating me with what he did today.
I'm just hoping with Bobby Thomas that one of those bans is in the FA Cup game. So instead of missing the 3 league games, it'll be like 2 league matches.
Yes.
And I just want to talk about the FA Cup a little bit, because obviously that is our next game.
Yeah, go ahead.
I do think that it's come at a perfect time. Yes, there's a game in between. Obviously, this is the game in between today and Leicester, but maybe it's just an opportunity to rotate the squad where a couple of players have been off the pace. So maybe you rotate the squad. Players who don't usually start games can start, have their opportunity to perform, and maybe just show Lampard something. Sure, we need players coming in, but at the same time, if some players are struggling, cup matches, they are opportunities for players who can step up to. Okay, can you step up to the plate, and can you be used in the second half of the season? So there'll be players like maybe Callum Perry who might come off the bench or might even start. I think Kai Andrews will start this game. And maybe a young George Shepherd might be given a debut in the cup when maybe we wouldn't be so comfortable to give that to him in the league.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. What about Hadji Wright? Do you think he might get a run out? You know, through Frank Lampard thinks, you know what, when you get some confidence back into you, get some goals, do you think that might happen? Or even Redone, for that matter?
I would start Hadji Wright, and I think I would also start Jack Redone. I think I'd also start Miguel Brown, just to get those extra minutes under his belt, see what he can do, and hopefully, because obviously he made that mistake against Charlton, but both things happen. So play him against Stoke. If he can put in a good performance, there you go. He's put that behind him all of a sudden, and I think we'll put Ben Wilson in goal because he's our cup goalkeeper. So I could see a fair few changes.
Yeah, I think he'll go. I'm going to guess at Wilson, Kessler, Hayden. I think Latty and Wolfenden. I think Brow would be a back 4. I don't know about, obviously Jamie, as we touched on, may not be available for this game, but I think Kai Andrews will feature. I can't imagine. I think Grimes will get a rest. I think. Who else would you play in that midfield? Obviously, we've got Redoni, possibly with Talk maybe come back if he's recovered from his calf injury, or do you think Lampard will just give him a rest?
I have just seen Glenn in the comment section suggest the idea of Blatty playing as a number 6, and maybe Callum Perry comes in at centre half to play with one of Wolfie or to play with Wolfie. So maybe that is a shout, because Latty's played as a number 6. Well, not an ideal situation. Maybe that could be the shout where you do put Kai Andrews in as a number 8. So obviously see what Perry can do in that situation, because I think he's in a situation where he needs a loan, but the club haven't really willingly wanted to loan him out yet. But at the same time, he's too good for the under-21 side. So a situation like this could be a good test for Callum Perry, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's you're in a bit of a no. You've got nothing to lose really, so I don't think that's a bad shout. I think that could potentially happen, and Lampard might want to have a look at him to see what he can do. But I think it's a game I take the game we could do. I take the game we could do it out, but I don't think it's a bad game to play. As I say, I think we just could do the rest from the league. So I'm actually quite happy about this period of time. Do you think we could beat Stoke? I imagine Stoke will make changes as well. How do you feel about the game, or are you not really bothered about the result?
I think we could. I think the beauty of cup matches is, whereas with league games you kind of know who's going to play. Whereas in the cup, you don't really know. Are they going to go strong? Are they going to rotate? And I think that's kind of the beauty of cup action, really. Anything can happen. So I believe we can win. If we don't win, I don't think it's the end of the world. At the end of the day, I think the league is our bread and butter this year. But at the same time, if we were to win next weekend, given like the little slump we've been on, I think that would also do the squad a lot of good. Just okay, it's not winning the league, but it's a win, and that will be the ultimate, and that will just be the ultimate confidence booster. Okay, it wasn't a league win, but a win is a win, and a win is the ultimate way to boost confidence.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that rounds up tonight's show. Cameron, thanks for your time tonight. It's been really appreciate you coming on. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe to our channel, All Things Sky Blue. Thanks for coming on and all of your comments. We should have a show later this week with the Stoke game, so stay tuned for that. As I say, our podcast is proudly sponsored by Right Steel Fabrication for all your fabrication needs, primarily in the Coventry and Warwickshire area. We're partnered with The Anecdote and Dylan's Brewery, and we're also part of the Sports Social podcast. And also, lastly but not least, sponsored by Sky and Friends Pet Services and Dog Walking. So thanks again for all your time. Play up Sky Blues, and we'll speak to you later this week.